Hi there, my name is Mr. Pete. I'm a fourth grade teacher, and today I'm going to begin the book, The Lemonade Crime, which is part 2 in a series of books by Jacqueline Davies. Her first book was The Lemonade War, which I've already read on this channel. If you haven't read that book, I would start there. But of course, part 2 is Lemonade Crime because there was a lot that was left unanswered in The Lemonade War. So for those of you who haven't read The Lemonade War, spoilers start now, so you better cut it. All right? To everybody else, of course, thank you so much for just stopping by my channel. Please, at the end of this, subscribe. It'll be up here somewhere. And enjoy any of the other videos that I have. Lots of other books, lots of other resources so that you can help out your classroom or work with your kids, in which I analyze books the way I would do in a classroom if I was doing a guided reading group. To my kiddos, let's get started. We have a lot to find out. But before we get started with this, the focus today is going to be on our plot mountain. And at the beginning of our plot mountain is this thing called exposition. So we're going to be looking for that exposition where we're talking about the intro of the story. Now, obviously, this is a sequel, so there might be a little bit less exposition, but we're looking for the main characters, we're looking for the setting, that time, place, and environment, and we're looking for just the background of maybe what we might have missed in the first book if we haven't read the first book yet. All right? So, and we're going to dive right into our rising action as we head to the climax of the story, which should happen far, far from now. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Lemonade Crime by Jacqueline Davies. She does have a dedication page. This time it's for C. Ryan Joyce, in loco parentis too many, and one in particular. Chapter 1, Fraud. For my classroom, please write setting. Try to figure this setting out. Remember, that's part of our exposition. We're looking for setting. We're looking for characters and background. Chapter 1, Fraud. Noun, the crime of deceiving someone for personal or financial gain, a person who pretends to be something that he or she is not. No fair, said Jessie. She pointed to the 4 chocolate chip cookies that her brother Evan was stuffing into a Ziploc bag. They were standing in the kitchen, just about ready to go to school, the 4th day of 4th grade for both of them, now that they were in the same class. Ooh, that was a lot of information in one paragraph. So if you've read Lemonade War, you know these are our 2 main characters, Jessie and Evan, and here is our exposition, our 2 main characters. If you know the Lemonade War, we know that each chapter is usually one of the characters, except for chapter 14 in our last book, which was both. Right now, it starts off with Jessie talking, so I'm going to assume it's a Jessie chapter. Our setting, we know right away we're in the kitchen. We're getting ready to go to school if we want to talk about atmosphere, so there's our place in the kitchen. We know it's before school, so it's in the morning. And 4th day. So we have to go back to the last book to kind of figure out where we're at so far. They were either going to start the school off on Tuesday, I think, or Wednesday. So I'm not really sure what. We'll have to see if we can figure that out as we keep going. Fraud, again, highlight that vocabulary word. And we just know that it's their 4th day of school. So just kind of keep that in mind. They do get along again. Remember, they fixed everything at the end of the book. But remember, Evan was a little embarrassed about her coming into the 4th grade. Let's see how he is. Fine, said Evan, taking out 1 cookie and putting it back in the cookie jar. 3 for you, 3 for me. Happy? It's not about being happy, said Jessie. It's about being fair. Whatever, I'm out of here. Evan slung his backpack over his shoulder, then disappeared down the stairs that led to the garage. Jessie walked to the front room window and watched as her brother pedaled down the street on his bike. She still didn't have her bike license, so she wasn't allowed to ride to school without a parent riding along. Remember, the bike license was Officer Ken, who broke down his lemonade stand when he was in the town square. That was just one of the bad things about skipping 3rd grade and being the youngest kid in the 4th grade class. Everyone else in her class could ride to school, but she still had to walk. Jessie went to the refrigerator and crossed off another day on the lunch calendar. Today's lunch was chicken patty on a bun. Not her favorite, but okay. With her finger, she tapped each remaining day of the week and read out loud the main dish. Deli-style hot dog, barf. Baked chicken nuggets with dipping sauce, soft shell tacos, and on Friday, her favorite, cinnamon glazed French toast sticks. So there's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that day they were having chicken patty on a bun. So there's 5 days. So we know it's Monday. So they must have started school on Wednesday the previous week. So remember, we ended on Sunday night after the Labor Day fireworks, okay? So then Labor Day on Monday, then they must have still had Tuesday off and then went back to school on Wednesday. So this is day 4 on the first Monday of school, okay? Saturday's box was empty, but someone had used a red marker to fill in the box. Saturday, Yom Kippur, partay! Jessie put her hands on her hips. Who had done that? Probably one of Evan's friends, Adam or Paul. Messing up her lunch calendar. Probably Paul. That was just like him. Jessie knew that Yom Kippur was a very serious Jewish holiday. She couldn't remember what it was for, but it was definitely serious. You were not supposed to write the word partay after Yom Kippur. So we're going to talk about Yom Kippur when we get to Yom Kippur in this book. I'm not going to talk too much about it now, but it is one interesting part of this story where we get to learn about a different custom. This is the Jewish religion. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as we kind of go through this book, because Yom Kippur kind of weaves in and out. And I do want you to learn a little bit about it. Jessie, are you all ready? Asked Mrs. Tresky, walking into the kitchen. Again, new character, third new character. Yep, said Jessie. She picked up her backpack, which weighed almost as much as she did, and hefted it onto her shoulders. Hyperbole. Backpack doesn't weigh as much as she did. And hefted. Highlight vocabulary word. Another word for lifted. She had to lean forward slightly at the waist just to keep from falling backwards. Mom, you don't have to walk me to school anymore. I mean, I'm a 4th grader, you know. I know you are, said Mrs. Tresky, looking on the garage stairs for her shoes. But you're still just 8 years old. I'll be 9 next month. Mrs. Tresky looked at her. Do you mind so much? Can't I just go with Megan? New character. Again, you probably know her from the Lemonade War. Still friends. So again, we immediately have to ask, does she know what Evan and her did with the money? Isn't Megan always late? But I'm always early, so we'll even out. I suppose that would be okay for tomorrow. But today, let's just walk together. Okay? Okay, said Jessie, who actually liked walking to school with her mother, but wondered if the other kids thought she was even more of a weirdo because of it. But this is the last time. It took them less than 10 minutes to get to school. Darlene, the crossing guard, held up her gloved hands to stop the traffic and called out, Okay, you can cross now. There's another character, not a main character, but one you can just take note of. Jessie turned to her mother. Mom, I can walk the rest of the way myself. Well, said Mrs. Tresky, 1 foot on the curb, 1 foot on the street. All right, I'll see you when school gets out. I'll wait for you right here. She stepped back up on the curb, and Jessie knew she was watching her all the way to the playground. I won't turn around and wave, she told herself. 4th graders don't do that kind of thing. Evan had explained that to her. And remember, Evan is kind of her guardian, except for the Lemonade War for most of it. Evan kind of gives her the insight on what it's like to be a 4th grader, 1, and 2, to kind of understand what people are doing back to her. Because remember, she struggles with that. Jessie walked onto the playground looking for Megan. Kids weren't allowed in the school building until the bell rang, so they gathered outside before school, hanging on the monkey bars, sliding down the slide, talking in groups, or organizing a quick game of soccer or basketball, if they were lucky enough to have a teacher who would let them borrow a class ball before school. Jessie scanned the whole playground. No Megan. She was probably running late. Character trait. Jessie hooked her thumbs under the straps of her backpack. She already noticed that most of the fourth grade girls didn't carry backpacks. They carried their books and binders and water bottles and lunches in slouchy mailbags. Highlight slouchy vocabulary. Kind of means sags. Jessie thought those bags were stupid, the way they banged against your knees and dug into your shoulders. Backpacks were more practical. Highlight vocabulary word. Practical means makes more sense. She wandered toward the blacktop where Evan and a bunch of boys were playing horse. Some of the boys were fifth graders and tall, but Jessie wasn't surprised to find out that Evan was winning. He was good at basketball, the best in his whole grade, in Jessie's opinion. Maybe even the best in the whole school. She sat down on the sidelines to watch. So notice how proud she is of Evan. Okay, I'm going to do a fadeaway jumper, said Evan, calling his shot so the next boy would have to copy him. 1 foot on the short crack to start. He bounced the ball a few times, and Jessie watched along with all the other kids to see if he could make the shot. When he finally jumped, releasing the ball as he fell back, the ball sailed through the air and made a perfect rainbow right through the hoop. Metaphor, comparing the arc of the basketball to a rainbow. Why is that a metaphor, by the way, not a simile? Remember, comparisons. You have similes, you have metaphors. They're basically the same except for two things. Two words. Oh, man, said Ryan, who had to copy the shot character. He bounced the ball a couple of times and bent his knees, but just then the bell rang and it was time to line up. Ha, said Ryan, throwing the ball sky high. Hyperbole. You are so lucky, said Evan, grabbing the ball out of the air and putting it in the milk crate that held the rest of the 4-0 playground equipment. Jessie liked Evan's friends, and they were usually pretty nice to her, so she followed them to stand in line. She knew not to get in line right behind Evan. He wasn't too thrilled about having his little sister in the same classroom with him this year. So same as last year. Remember, he struggled with that. That's the whole reason why the Lemonade War started. He was afraid to tell her that. So even though he told her now, he's still struggling. But she's being respectful of it. Mrs. Tresky had given Jessie some advice. Give Evan some space. So that's what she was doing. Jessie looked across the playground just in case Megan had appeared, but instead she saw Scott Spencer jumping out of his dad's car. Character. Oh, great, muttered Jessie. As far as Jessie was concerned, Scott Spencer was a faker and a fraud. Highlight, vocabulary word. There's fraud again. He was always doing something he wasn't supposed to behind the teacher's back, and he never got caught. Like the time he cut the heads off the daffodils that were growing in the art room, or when he erased stars from the blackboard so that his desk group would win the weekly team award. So here are all of these character traits, really showcasing Scott Spencer as a bad dude. Remember, Scott Spencer is who Evan believes, and actually who Jessie believes, stole the money that they had raised from the lemonade stand. Do we know if he stole that money? When Scott got to the line, he cut right in front of Jessie and tapped Ryan on the back of the shoulder. Hey, he said. Hey, said Ryan, turning and giving him a nod. Excuse me, said Jessie, poking Scott in the arm. The end of the line is back there. She jerked her thumb behind her. So what, said Scott. So you can't just cut in front. Who cares? All we're doing is going into school. It's a line, said Jessie. The rule is you go to the end of the line. So what character trait does Jessie have? It's one of our levels, actually. She is most definitely this level. We've never really talked about Jessie's level other than when she did the level 0 thing in Lemonade War. But what is her normal level? Is it level 0, she only thinks of herself? Level 1, she's afraid to get in trouble. Level 2, she's trying to get a reward. Level 3, she's trying to be a pleaser and please everybody. Level 4, a rule follower. Level 5, thinking of other people. Or level 6, a high moral code. Who cares what you say, said Scott, shrugging and turning his back on her. The line was starting to move forward. Scott punched a couple more boys on the arm and said hey to them. Some of the boys said hi back, but Jesse noticed that Evan kept looking straight ahead. "Man, am I late," said Scott to Ryan. He was grinning from ear to ear. "I couldn't stop playing my new Xbox 2020. "You got a 2020? asked Ryan. Paul turned around. "Who did? Who got one?" "He says he did," said Ryan, pointing to Scott. "No way," said Paul. "That's not even out yet." "Well, you can't get it in a store," said Scott, "but my mom knows people in Japan." All right, lots of new characters. Again, Ryan we already know about. Paul we already know about from the other book, but just make sure that you highlight them and note them as characters. Do you remember what Evan said in Lemonade War about how he would know if Scott Spencer stole that money? He would be getting a new Xbox. Jesse looked toward Evan, who was at the front of the line. She could tell that he hadn't heard what Scott said, but more and more boys in the line turned around to hear about the 2020. It was the newest game system with surround sight goggles and motion sensing gloves. The line in front of Jesse started to bunch up. When Jessie got to the door of her classroom, Mrs. Overton, highlight new character, was standing there, saying good morning to each student as the line filed in. "Mrs. Overton, Scott Spencer cut in front of me this morning." Jessie was no tattletale, but Scott needed to learn a thing or two about rules. Mrs. Overton put a hand on Jessie's shoulder. "Okay, Jessie, I'll watch tomorrow to make sure it doesn't happen again. But for now, let's just let it go."
No! 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 No!
No! No! No! No! No! No! No! No! No!
No! No!
What? No!
No!
No. No, no.
No, 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 no.
Perfect, thought Jessie as she walked to her desk and took down her chair. Scott Spencer gets away with something again. What does that again mean? After putting her chair on the floor, she walked out into the hall to hang her backpack in her locker. She tore off a corner of the page from her writer's notebook and quickly wrote a note on it. Then, as she passed Evan's desk on the way to her own, she slipped the note into his hand. She didn't see him open it and read it, but by the time she sat down at her own desk, she could tell that he had. Evan was staring at Scott Spencer, and you could practically see bullets coming out of his eyes. Hyperbole. The note says, Scott Spencer got an Xbox 2020. Where do you think he got the money for that? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I wonder. What if Scott Spencer didn't take the money, though? Do we know? We don't. We don't. And for those of you who haven't read The Lemonade War yet, you have no idea what we're talking about yet, go read The Lemonade War. So, real quickly, before we wrap this up, we are talking about Plot Mountain. So we had a lot of exposition there. Think about what that was. What's the background that's given in the book? What is our main kind of... Okay, so before we wrap things up for Chapter 1, I do want to talk about Plot Mountain, starting with exposition. Who are our main characters? Who do we think our main characters are? What is our setting of the story? And it happens in multiple places. Okay, not only does it happen at home, but they go to school. What's the atmosphere? Okay. And then we start our plot points. We start moving from point A to point B. And things start happening that are leading to ultimately what our climax is going to be and what the question is. So think about the title of the book, The Lemonade Crime. Think about what the question was posed right there by our characters. And really realize that this whole chapter is a lot of exposition. And while we are going to start labeling plot points, things that are happening, this does just set up the book. What do you think the point of this book is going to be? All right? So we're going to stop there. Again, thank you to everybody who is reading this book with us. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click the button. It's going to be up here, maybe up here. And, check out some of the other videos, all right? Leave some comments if you have any questions, if you have any books you'd like me to read. And I would like to give one special shout out to Taylor Brummagem. She left a message and asked me to do that. So keep up the great work, Taylor, and to all of the other followers of my channel. Again, thank you so much, and I will see you on the next page. Peace.